And we're live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Committee on Police Oversight, Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Councilmember Rivera,
Present.
Councilmember Wyatt,
Here.
Councilmember Bowman,
Present.
Councilmember Nowakowski,
Present.
Welcome to the Police Oversight Committee meeting. I want to add Council members Mitch Nowakowski and Councilmember Brian Bowman for the purpose of having a quorum to the committee. Today, we're joined by the Buffalo Police Department command staff and members of the Buffalo Police Advisory Committee appointed by the Common Council. So we're going to get started right from the top. You can call the item.
Item number 1, white supremacy in police departments.
This item is open.
Item is open. We have the new president of the Police Advisory Committee, Mike Powell, who will be making a presentation along with the newly appointed board member, Christine Vogel.
Hello, point of clarification, we actually have Orlando Dixon presenting on the thing, perfectly fine. So he was a co-author on this report. So we put together the white supremacy in police departments. I'm going to let Orlando speak more on the details of that. Based on sort of the historical context of this issue we've seen in the nation, and also the recent last year, 2 years of public events where this has really been an issue to look into. So I'm going to pass it to Orlando if you wanted to jump in on details of the report.
Hello, Common Council, and thank you for having us and allowing us to present to you today. This issue, I just want to clarify, we brought this issue together because of community wanting this issue. So we're trying to represent the community's interest in this issue. So the community talks about white officers in predominantly non-white neighborhoods, and the residents, of course, want better reporting mechanisms on top of identifying white supremacists that might have infiltrated any area of local government, including the police department. Because residents believe that white supremacist groups have infiltrated BPD. And just to be clear, we are not here to accuse, but just to bring the message from the community and provide the research on the topic and ask the tough questions. So what is white supremacy? A historically based, institutionally perpetuated system of exploitation and oppression of continents, nations, and peoples of color by white people and nations of the European continent for the purpose of maintaining and defending a system of wealth, power, and privilege. So we've had white supremacist incidents all over the country, especially in policing, and it's not something that you have to take my word for. There are multiple examples all over the country. The FBI in 2006 reported that white supremacists have infiltrated police all over the nation. In 2014, 2 Florida officers were fired after an FBI informant outed them as members of the KKK. In 2015, in North Carolina, a police officer was fired after pictures surfaced of him giving Nazi salutes. In 2015 as well, a police lieutenant was fired for being a member of the League of the South, which is a known hate group. And another retired police lieutenant was also a member of that same group. That same year, Pennsylvania police chief used the N-word in multiple emails. In 2016, a Philly police officer was photographed with a Nazi tattoo, which Internal Affairs deemed to be free speech, and the police union fought to protect his right to keep. In 2016, again, police in Detroit were calling Black people monkeys. Police in Utah were using the N-word in Facebook posts. The police chief in Maryland was calling people N-words and spewing anti-Semitic epithets. In 2017, a police officer in DC was caught wearing a shirt with KKK symbols on it. In 2021, there were at least 18 police and firefighters participating in the January 6th violent insurrection on our nation's capital, some of who were members of the Goripur Army, New Jersey European Heritage Association, and Proud Boys, which are known white supremacist groups. And it's here in New York as well. This isn't just all over America. A Rochester man, a member of a white supremacist organization, was accused of participating in the Capitol riots. There was a White Lives Matter rally organized by a neo-Nazi in Buffalo in 2016, celebrating white pride. North Tonawanda had a 1960 sundown town sign suggesting people would be brutalized if caught there after hours or once the sun goes down. If it wasn't, and it wasn't even taken down until late 2020. The year prior, in 2019, KKK flyers were going around in Tonawanda. More KKK leaflets went out in Niagara in 2020. Cheektowaga had a man accused of being a white supremacist also participate in the Capitol riots. And we also, of course, had a local known white supremacist who lived in Buffalo participate in the riots as well, of course, being accused of participating in the riots. And our situation specifically in Buffalo isn't great. We have a lack of representation in a Black-led police department, which is, of course, all in the document that was submitted to you, which tells the exact numbers. Lack of representation is proven to lead to increased violence when the race of the officer is different than the resident. Buffalo is the 6th most segregated city in the entire United States, down only 2 spots in nearly 20 years. We were 4th in 1991. It's not just outright racism, it's also implicit bias, which is the automatic unconscious stereotypes we associate with people or places that are related to our attitudes and behaviors. In figure 1, I'm not sure which page is on it, I believe it's page 3. You can see the cycle of implicit bias and structural racism from the National Equity Project. So in that, you can see how one leads to the other. And we also lay out very specific and simple ways, just below that, we lay out very specific and simple ways of identifying implicit bias based on race and white supremacists within the police department. We also lay out over a dozen best practices near the end for addressing white supremacy in police departments, things like creating civilian review boards with teeth, of course, that can actually take actions, creating incentives to change bias behaviors, mandating consistent bias training, firing police who exhibit supremacist attitudes, and reducing overtime because fatigue actually increases the implicit association of race and crime. So I just want to state again, this is not an attempt to accuse BPD of having white supremacists in their ranks. However, the community is worried and they want to know what you're doing to ensure you don't have them in the ranks and to filter out white supremacist candidates that may come from the police academy. The community wants to know how you would deal with the white supremacist if you found out today that one of your officers was one. And essentially, what steps are the BPD taking to prevent white supremacist beliefs from being a part of the BPD? And as we know that it is happening throughout the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Orlando Dixon. Commissioner, they've talked about the infiltration of white supremacists in law enforcement and police departments. Can you speak to that here locally? What does BPD do to vet candidates at the entry level to prevent them from even getting into the police department? And as Orlando mentioned, what do you do if you do find one that's already in the police department that has made it through its probationary period and you find out that there might be some white supremacist connection? Can you speak to that, Commissioner? Is the commissioner on?
Yes, they're on, but they're muted at the moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. What we do at the beginning is recruit the recruiters that comes on. We have a thorough investigation as far as their background check. We check their you know, the neighborhoods. We interview people from the neighborhood. We also interview if they had employment. We interview employment, their schooling. And they also, before they come on, they go through a psychological evaluation too. So those are some of the things that we do to vet out recruits before they even come on the job. Now, a lot of that is done through the human resource. Now, once they get sworn in as a police officer, and we should, if we hear or we get complaints about them, then we would have our internal affair investigating unit to look into the matter. Now, if we get a complaint about this social media, we will look into this social media, and if it is that, you know, that they're biased or they're part of a white supremacist group, we would have to get the evidence that's presented out there, and we would have to go through an arbitrator, because that's what the contract in the city of Buffalo, that's what we would have to do after 18 months. We couldn't just literally fire them. We would have to go through an arbitrator. Before the 18 months, or even before they get on the job, we can just turn them down or just terminate them from the employment.
Commissioner, now for someone, as you mentioned, somebody that is within the Buffalo Police Department, and it is determined that there is a nexus to white supremacy. You mentioned that if they have more than 18 months, it would go to arbitration. Is the FBI involved in it if there's a connection to some group out of state?
Yeah, we would bring the FBI involved, and we also would reach out to the DA's office and the state attorney general's office. We would bring all law enforcement. We would reach out to all law enforcement part of this investigation. But we would have to get, because of the contract we were under, we would have to get this evidence to take to an arbitrator in order for us to determine. Now, the department, we will go for termination. That's strictly, we will go for termination. I'll sit here and tell you today that if there is some complaint about white supremacists involved in it, I will go, we will investigate this, and I will go for termination.
Okay, any questions from the council members to the commissioner? Councilmember Rashid Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, you know, what Mr. Dixon outlined, we know is pretty pervasive. It's not like people openly say, I'm a white supremacist. So what would you be looking for? What type of independent review is taking place so that you could reveal that? Because we know that they're not just coming out with their swastika and their hoods. It's pervasive. So what are you doing to make certain that that's not happening and that you don't have anyone in the ranks currently?
Well, the thing is, council member, I would have to investigate the complaint first. I mean, you have to have the complaint in order to investigate the individual who it is. So I would need the complaint, and to make sure that this doesn't happen again, we would have to do, we're looking to do different trainings too, to make sure that our officers are, being trained. Now, Deputy Larkin here has some of those training that we are doing presently now, as far as, to make sure that some of this is not in the Buffalo Police Department.
Okay. And I guess my point is, we have individuals who currently have issues on the police department that we were unaware of. So are you certain that there's nothing that's been written up thus far from any of these individuals that are currently on the force?
Well, right now, right now, I can't say, we have, complaints about conduct, and right now, when the complaints come in, we have body cameras that we can go to. We can go and look at body cameras. We can see exactly what took place. Now, if, you know, we look and see where they're using, you know, or they're something that can lead to white supremacy, then that's a different, we're taking that to a different level. So, but right now, the only thing that I can really tell you that I have had since I've been commissioner has been the conduct, and we go back and look at the body cameras, and you know, some of them have been had to been disciplined about it, and some of them has not been true, you know, of the complaints.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what Mr. Dixon has provided as far as some of the documentation and information is really alarming. And certainly when you think about the status of the city of Buffalo, and you talked about the sixth racist city in America, those are things that kind of are feeding grounds for that. And, you know, you can have individuals, not only police officers, firefighters, you can have bankers, you can have a whole litany of folks who could have that MO. However, I think that we have to be very religious and judicious in making certain that the people we're hiring don't have those issues. And so I guess the issue has to be, how do we make sure that those individuals don't make it on the force with a rigorous background check? And I know that you do a background check, but how involved is that? I mean, do we have individuals going? I mean, I know for an FBI agent, they do a rigorous background check. I mean, they go into your first grade teacher. You know, do we do that in the Buffalo Police Department?
I don't think we go to the first grade teacher, but we do go to the neighborhood that they live in, and we go to where their employment is. If they had girl, you know, we investigate, we interview their girlfriends. So I think they do a pretty good job as far as, you know, the investigation.
Who does that, Commissioner? Who actually does the background investigation?
Internal affairs.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner, let me ask, are there any other council members that would like to speak or ask a question?
Councilmember Rivera, oh, sorry.
Yes.
Just
Mike.
wonder if I can ask a really quick follow-up question about the complaint to IA. So let's say I get stopped at a traffic light and I see an officer has SS bolts patched onto his vest or something like that, and I make a complaint to IA. As a citizen of Buffalo, do I have any way to know how often that happens in Buffalo? How often those kinds of complaints get made and the resolutions of those? Is that public? Can I ask for that from the police to get an idea of what kind of city I'm living in? Or is there something within the contract that pervades me from finding out that information?
Hi, Mr. Powell. The currently the internal affairs, they list, I believe it is twice a year, the stats and the data based on complaints from citizens broken down by various categories and types of complaints. So that information is made available. But just so that you know, we have never had a complaint of those types of incidents, swastikas or any type of the logos or flags or anything like that on any of our officers' uniforms, police vehicles or anything, because we have made it clear that that's a zero tolerance within the Buffalo Police Department. We certainly would act on what if a complaint was made. We would be able to follow up with internal affairs if we wanted to get information, I guess, on a more regular basis. Right now, I think it is published twice a year.
If there's a council member that would like to ask a question, and please let me know.
Majority Leader?
Commissioner, Councilmember Brian Bowman.
Yeah, thanks, Majority Leader. I just wanted to ask a quick question of the commissioner with regard, in the report, it speaks about lack of representation that reflects the diversity of the city of Buffalo. So I just want to ask a quick question regarding our hiring strategies and efforts, if there's any efforts when we hire and do our next effort to hire. If there are any efforts to essentially make the police department more diverse and reflective of the city of Buffalo. Thank you.
Councilmember Bowman, we have to follow the civil service guidelines based on hiring. There's an active civil service eligibility list, and we are putting a class in. We are going to hire 20 candidates. They will be called recruits once we swear them in on August 2nd. They'll be actually starting the academy on August 2nd and sworn in on July 30th, the Friday before. What we do is we have to follow civil service guidelines. We go down the list and process them for various things. First, we'll start with your physical agility, and unfortunately, we lose a lot of people based on them not being physically fit in order to pass the agility test. As you know, the background investigation, all of those things take place. Some people we lose during that process, and then there's the psychological testing, and the last step is physical exam and the drug testing, and then those things take place towards the end. So we get the numbers based on that, and then prior to that is our recruitment. We've done an extensive amount of work in the city of Buffalo to diversify and to recruit minorities, people of color, Hispanics, and just all minorities. And I know myself and Commissioner Herndon Hill, we were very active in putting together a recruitment team that consisted of our neighborhood engagement officers, our community police officers, myself, and human resources staff. We went out to neighborhoods, churches, community events, and we did an extensive amount of campaign recruitment, so to speak, to attract as many minorities as we possibly could. And because so much effort was done, I also want to say for the first time, we held information sessions over at Econ School. We had never done that before, to make sure we attracted everybody to answer specific questions firsthand about our recruitment process. We videotaped our physical agility, Cooper's norms testing technique, so that everyone knew the proper way to do a sit-up, a proper way to do a push-up, and those things, so they would know how to be prepared for the physical agility test. We rolled out literature that was put out, say, every month and posted throughout the city of Buffalo. And so we did all of those things to make sure we recruited as many minorities as possible. And for the first time, I think we had a record number of women take the police exam and minorities take the Buffalo police exam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Bowman. Commissioner, what can we do to expand the pool of applicants that represent that diverse community? I understand that there's a civil service exam that they have to pass, but if they don't take the exam, they'll never even get on the list. What can we do to engage the community to increase the pool of a more diverse group of people taking the exams? I mean, do we work with the community? Do we go to churches? Do we go to different neighborhoods? What can we do to increase that pool of diverse applicants?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Winkle.
Yes, before the commissioner or deputy commissioner answers that question, I just want to kind of add to that question. I know that we were asking about the representation on the force. We can't force folks to apply to a job they don't want, first of all. And I think we all know that. I think that's a reality and also an obstacle, but at the same time, we also had the BPD 21C program that I know a lot of us are aware of that changed some of the criteria, which allowed for a wider base of candidates to apply. Now, the follow-up to Mr. Rivera's question would be, have those criteria changed regarding the BPD 21C program? Because that did allow us to hire, have a lot larger pool to hire from. Has those criteria changed at all? And if they have, when did they change and go back?
Councilmember Wingo and during Rivera, no, none of the criteria, excuse me, has changed for hiring to become a Buffalo police officer. They still remain the same as they did when BPD 21C was initiated. And to answer your question, Councilmember Rivera, we were actively engaged in recruitment in the churches and supermarkets and libraries and community centers, excuse me, community events. And what we also plan to do and what we did is we utilize, again, our neighborhood engagement team, community police officers. And we're using our younger officers, as you know, the Buffalo Police Department as is a younger police department. They have a job, length of time for a police officer is 5 to 8 years. And so we use those young officers to go out and to be our ambassadors, to tell their family members and their friends about what a great job and opportunity it would be to become a local police officer. They're speaking firsthand to people that they know, and we found out word of mouth is a great tool to use to try to recruit some of our young people in the community. Now, again, I've talked to so many people myself, and I asked them, are you interested in taking an exam? For example, they'll say, no, I'm already in school. I'm not interested in that. Or I already have something. And what I've done personally is tell these young people that there's nothing wrong with giving yourself another option. Options are a great tool. Sign up, take the exam, prepare for it so you can do well. And then when the time comes and you're called, if you're not ready to take that position at the time, you can defer. And this is something that people don't know. That's why we did these information sessions, so that we can tell people the ins and outs and how to navigate the system. So we would continue to do those types of things that educate the community.
You know, also, you have a lot of people that take to defer and they never come off of defer. For some reason, they just don't take a job. We also have a situation too where a lot of times when they live at one place, we have that ambulance form, and for some reason when their name come up and we send the correspondence to them, they're not there. And a lot of mail come back to where they haven't left a forwarding address. So those are, you know, they're not major issues, but those are some of the issues that being faced up in these facilities.
May I make a comment, please?
Well, one second. Mr.
Well, you know,
Majority.
you have to be, we have to follow rules of order. The council member has the floor. We'll acknowledge you, wait to be acknowledged, and then we'll give you an opportunity to speak. Thank you, Councilmember Wingo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to comment, not even comment, but just read our resolution from 2017. And I believe that, albeit this report from the advisory board is well-intentioned, I would have liked to not have had to ask certain questions in this space, because the spirit of the advisory board was to serve as somewhat as a liaison between the Common Council, the police department, and the community, listening to the concerns of the community, of which we've seen that this advisory board does very well, meet with the community as we know that they've done, but as well take those issues directly to the police department, and then bring those issues back to us as solutions though. I don't want to have to come into a space where information is new to council members, information is new, or questions are brand new to the police board, and we are reading documents that have hearsay included in them that should be research documents. But the transparency piece and the accountability piece, I believe, is going to happen when conversations happen. The Police Oversight Committee is a platform for the community to come and basically be able to speak on issues that are on the agenda that they request to have put on this agenda. Now, we had asked for applicants to apply to the Police Advisory Board, and we did that. We had over 50 applications to fill 11 seats, and we filled those 11 seats with individuals who we felt were qualified and equipped to do this job or to volunteer. And let me just say this, I absolutely appreciate the volunteerism. I appreciate the effort, because as far as I know, Mr. Dixon did not get paid to write this report. He is not getting compensated to do this work. So this is an honorable work, and it is a very considerable task as well. But having said all that, we want to make sure that our approach with the advisory board is to do exactly what we intended it to do, and that is to build relationship and the improvement of the relationship between police and community. And that is done by having constant conversations with the police leadership and constant conversations with the Common Council, and of course, constant conversations with the community. I want to be goal oriented. The initial title of the paper that was given to us, is white supremacy in police departments. Okay, we're addressing the problem. And then we see that in this document, there's some anecdotal data that was provided. There's some straight anecdotes that were provided. Then there were some statistics that were provided. Now, white supremacy is one of those things that, you won't know it happens until someone behaves in a manner of which they conduct themselves as a white supremacist, or you go and you proactively seek out to find out whether or not this person has racist content or white supremacist content on any of their social media pages or that matter. So when we are addressing a topic as polarizing as white supremacy and as, like I think Councilmember Wyatt said, pervasive as white supremacy, we have to really approach this from a proactive standpoint, because what we don't want to do is come across accusatory. Stating the facts is great, and I think stating the facts helps us substantiate the solutions. And the solutions were given at the end of the document. I think we gave like 13 solutions to white supremacy. I believe this should be strictly advisory and offer solutions to issues that may be trending in the country that we can be proactive with. There are issues that we have to research within the department, but those have to be, of course, substantiated with data. But as far as the advisory board is concerned, the advisory board is in place not to be an activist group or even an advocacy group. You do advocacy when we do the research, listen to the constituency, and then provide data on how we can change trends and behaviors on the department. I can't say enough how much I appreciate the volunteerism and the work that has been put into this, but I would really like to see how we are approaching this from a proactive standpoint. And if there are issues that have been found in the police department, and we know that there are issues, just like there are issues in many other areas and departments in city government, we want to make sure that we are providing the data so that we can substantiate our solutions to those problems, especially with the problem as white supremacy. So again, I want to thank Mr. Powell and Mr. Dixon for being here today and for providing this white paper on this very, 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 very serious issue. And I will look forward to communicating with them offline before the meetings, after the meetings, and throughout in between meetings, so that when we are in these spaces, none of us are surprised with the data. I did read your document, I did read your paper, but at the same time, these are conversations that I believe we can have early, so that by the time we come back to this space, all of us are talking about how we're fixing certain problems, instead of bringing those issues to the meeting and the community feeling as though if we're now working on these issues, because I know that I work with the Buffalo Police Department to engage with our community. I know who my Buffalo Police community officers are. We have two new community officers I have not met since COVID, but we do make sure that we have programs and community days so that we can try to repair the relationships and establish better relationships with the community. And Mr. Chair, Mr. Majority Leader, I thank you for the time and for the floor.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention that when Mr. Orlando Dixon made his initial comments, he prefaced it by saying that that this wasn't the PD, that there were trends throughout the country, and he listed a number of them. And we gave the police department an opportunity to respond on how they prevent vet candidates that would come into the Buffalo Police Department. And they went through a litany of things that the police department does in terms of background checks, including their Facebook postings and their psychological. They listed a number of things. And even then they said that if a person, they are found to have these tendencies, that they would be proactive, and he used the word termination if need be. So it was, he prefaced it that these were allegations. Certainly, we don't want to tarnish any department, but we need to be vigilant to make sure that that culture is not within any of the departments. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Orlando Dixon to make his comment, and then we'll move on. Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you, and I certainly appreciate the comments from Councilmember Wingo. We definitely do want to work with the Common Council, and we definitely want to work with the Buffalo Police Department. I am a lawyer. I'm a law school graduate, and I just wanted to say I didn't intend for anything in this document to be hearsay. Or to be taken as a negative commentary on the Buffalo Police Department. As you stated, Councilmember Rivera, we did state twice, this is not meant to be accusatory at all. I mean, hearsay, I mean, of course, is a testimony from a witness under oath who is reciting an out of court statement, of course, so that wouldn't be the technical term, but at the same time, we don't want any idea of being accusatory. In that same light, we do have Christine Vogel, who did submit a complaint about improper badging on police vehicles, which include a number of signs, including Blue Lives Matter signs and things of that nature, but also other symbols. And I would just ask the Buffalo Police Department to look into that if possible, because they may not have been aware of this complaint yet. And also, I just would like to say that 135, I mean, this is reported in the New York Times as well, 135 police departments throughout the country have managed to bring their police departments into a state where diversity is more common than a lack of diversity. It is possible. I believe it's possible. I believe in the Buffalo Police Department's ability to do so. And I look forward to working together with the Buffalo Police Department to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Yes, and I suggest if there are any complaints that you police department, and allow them to conduct an investigation to find out merits of what it is you're saying allegedly happened. So please provide the information to the Buffalo Police Department, and I'm sure they will investigate it. Thank you very much, Orlando and Mike Powell, for the work you do and the volunteer work you do, the information that you have provided. And certainly we are going to be even more vigilant we'll have a better idea of how these cases are investigated by the Buffalo Police Department. So thank you very much for all you do, and the new members of the advisory board as well. Thank you. You, Councilmember Wyatt, you can table this item.
Motion to table.
Thank you very much. The next item,
Do you have a second on the motion to table?
seconded by Councilmember Mitch Noakowski.
Item number 2, recommended police policy reforms and community engagement.
Motion to table.
This item was filed by Council President Darius Pridgen, and he asked that it be tabled so we can discuss this item further. There are a number of items that we'd like to receive and file, but Commissioner, I'd like to speak to you regarding the increase in shootings that we have experienced, not only across the country, but here in the city of Buffalo. Can you explain to us what it is that we're doing proactively to mitigate the increase in violence with regards to shooting?
What we're doing is, I'm meeting constantly with my chiefs from every district. And we're working closely with the residents in each one of these different districts in the community. I am instructing my chiefs to now to have their community meetings in person instead of virtual. So once a month they will be meeting with them. Each district is planning to have community day in their district where they invite everyone, block clubs, and they'll be sending something out to the council members under those community days. Community police officers they've been instructed to, work more and be at more of the community meetings. And we also, which I don't want to get into on there, we're also working with plans to, in certain areas where deploy more manpower where we have a lot of these problems in certain districts. So we're working on that, and right now, these shootings that's happening is just, I'm not going to say it's just one issue. It's, it's a lot of different problems that's happening out there. We're working with the community to work with them to try to solve some of these issues that's happening. One thing you will see more and more police presence in a lot of these areas where we had the shooting. Also, a week and a half ago, we started back taking to the streets where I take the command bus and went to a hot area. Was down in Winburn and Ashley Street. As you know, there was a few homicides down there. I was there 2 days ago, and I had all my command staff down there too. And we, talked with the residents down there. We also, met with children and work with the kids. I have a net team down there, and I walked Broadway. I walked that whole area within Broadway, and I went in and met with some of the store owners, and really find out what the problem is. And most of the problems are that people congregate in front of their stores, and if they're not moved from there, then those little issues cause a major problem, because that's where a lot of the bad blood starts picking up from, and then before you know it, they take it into community, and then you have problems there. We also going to have a lot of more officers on the walking beat. You see a lot more officers out there walking. So those are some of the things that we're putting together. But the most important thing that we can do is work together on this. We need the community to work with us. We're out there.
Is there anything that you can recommend to the community that they can do to help mitigate this problem or help solve some of these problems?
Well, I understand, you know, that it was it's a tough situation where, you know, you're coming forward to talk to the police, you can be, you know, people can be targeted, but we have ways where we have tip lines and we have ways that you can get us information, get information to us. But in order for us to be able to do our job well and to get things, to solve a lot of these crimes quickly, we would need the community support. I mean, if the community is having a block club meeting, or if they having something in their community, and I would want them to reach out to the chief of that district to inform him, and we make sure we have our community police officers there. We have someone, you know, there. But right now, the best thing I can tell you, as far as what we can ask the community to do is, you know, I don't want them to put themselves in a situation where they're going to be hurt, but we just need their help.
Thank you. Commissioner, we understand law enforcement approach to the increase in shootings. However, we know that there are a lot of underlying problems, and whether it's mental health, whether it's lack of trust in police department, whether it's economics, economic deprivation, there's just a number of things. When you map where these incidents of shootings are happening and you're allocating resources into those neighborhoods, into those districts, are we also looking to put other resources, work with other agencies in those respective areas where these incidents are occurring, to have more of a comprehensive approach? I understand policing and the need to enforce policing, but there are a lot of underlying problems that are occurring, and we certainly need everyone on board to help with this. So when you're crime mapping, you're putting your data together of where you're going to allocate resources, are we also looking to work with other agencies so when we approach those areas, we're bringing in not just law enforcement and beat officers and policers, we're bringing in other human service agents, mental health, to deal with many of the problems, the underlying problems that are a reason for these incidents and spike in shootings in our neighborhoods. I'm sorry, you're muted, or?
I'm sorry, you were muted. Yeah, we bring in our BH team. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, we do bring in our BH team to help with the deal with mental issues there. We also reach out to different organizations. A couple of times before when we was taking it to the street, we had bills out there. We this one we this year we're going to have some of the coaches from the new meeting to talk to the young kids out there for their future endeavors. So we do bring other agencies out there with us. We also bring out agencies that can help them with the homeless people. So we, besides just police out there, and you know, we do bring other agencies where we reach out to other agencies, and a lot of them have responded and comes out there with us.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Councilmember Wyatt. I'd like to.
Yes, sir. I have a question, Mr. Chair.
from the table, if you can call. Go ahead, Councilmember Wyatt.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce every month, and thank you to the commissioner for continuing to have the E-District meetings. Myself and Councilmember Bowman worked with Chief Menza to have those meetings streamed over the last couple of months, and he thought that was a big help. Today is the first in-person meeting that'll be at 995, I believe at 6 p.m. And so I invite the community out, in our districts. This is a great opportunity to connect. And when we talk about police reform, this is part of it, is that public engagement that's really important. So I encourage folks to come out, especially if you have issues in your community, on your street. The chief is very responsive. So please come out tonight, 6 p.m., the first in-person meeting at 995 Kensington. Okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for the announcement. Thank you. Can we go back to the agenda, please? Councilmember Wyatt, would you please call to receive and file items 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9?
Motion to receive and file items 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9.
Motion made by Councilmember Rashid Wyatt, seconded by Councilmember Bowman. Nothing further to discuss?
Motion to adjourn.
You can adjourn the meeting, Councilmember Wyatt.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Nowakowski.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.